At first, there was only a place on the long plain of grass and a hill on which there was nothing at all but more grass and a tree that was crooked as a fork of black lightning, on which nothing grew until the town came and the house arrived. We all know how a town can gather by need until suddenly its heart starts up and circulates the people to their destination. But how, you ask, does a house arrive? The tree, some said, beckoned the house out of tumults of weather and excursions of time. Once the house was there, with its cellar roots deep in Chinese tomb yards, it was of such magnificence, echoing facades last seen in London, that wagons intending to cross the river hesitated with their families, gazing up, and decided if this empty place was good enough for a palace, a royal monument, or a queen's abode. There hardly seemed a reason to leave. So the wagons stopped, the horses were watered, and when the families looked, they found their shoes as well as their souls had sprouted roots. So stunned were they by the house up there by the lightning-shaped tree that they feared if they left, the house would follow in their dreams and spoil all the waiting places ahead. So the house arrived first, and its arrival was the stuff of further legends, myths, and drunken nonsense. It seems there was a wind that rose over the plains, bringing with it a gentle rain that turned into a storm that funneled a hurricane of great strength. Between midnight and dawn, this storm lifted any movable object between the fort towns of Indiana and Ohio, stripped the forests in upper Illinois, and arrived over the yet unborn site, settled, and with the level hand of an unseen god, deposited shakerboard by shakerboard and shingle by shingle. The house then was finished and capped before the stars dissolved into light, and it stood alone on its promontory for many years, somehow failing to summon its future children. There must be a mouse in every warren, a cricket on every hearth, smoke in the multitudinous chimneys, and creatures almost human icing every bed. Then mad dogs in yards, live gargoyles on roofs, all waited for some immense thunderclap of the long-departed storm to shout, "Begin!" And finally, many long years later, it did. The cat came first, in order to be absolute first. It arrived when all the cribs and closets and cellar bins and attic hang spaces still needed October wings, autumn breathings, and fiery eyes. When every chandelier was a lodge and every shoe a compartment, when every bed ached to be occupied by strange snows, and every banister anticipated the downslide of creatures, more pollen than substance, when every window warped with ages, distorted faces looking from shadows, when every empty chair seemed occupied by things unseen, when every carpet desired invisible footfalls, and the water pump on the back stoop inhaled, sucking vile liquors towards a surface abandoned because of the possible upchuck of nightmares, when all the parquetry planks whined with the oilings of lost souls, and when all the weathercocks on the high roofs gyred in the wind and smiled griffin teeth, while the death watch beetles ticked behind the walls, only then did the royal cat named Anuba arrive. The front door slammed, and there was Anuba, clothed in a fine pelt of arrogance, her quiet engine quieter. Centuries before limousines, she paced the corridors, a noble creature just come from a journey of 3,000 years. And so Anuba, her fur a sooty fire, her whiskers like lightning sparks, with ocelot paws strolled into the house on that special night, ignoring the empty rooms and dreamless beds, to arrive at the main hearth in the great parlor. Even as she turned thrice to sit, a fire exploded in the cavernous fireplace, while upstairs fires on a dozen hearths inflamed themselves as this queen of cats rested. And that, of course, was the first arrival. This was a puzzle inside of an enigma, inside a mystery, for it encompassed silences, each one different, and beds each a different size, some having lids. Some ceilings were high enough to allow flight, with rests where shadows might hang upside down. The dining room nested 13 chairs, each numbered 13, so no one would feel left out of the distinctions such numbers implied. The chandeliers above were shaped from the tears of souls in torment at sea, 500 years lost, and the basement cellar kept 500 vintage-year bins and strange names on the wine, tucked therein, and empty cubbies for future visitors who disliked beds or high-ceiling perches. A network of webways was used by the one and only spider, dropping down from above and up from below, so the entire house was a sounding spinneret tapestry played on by the ferociously swift Arak, seen one moment by wine bins and the next in a plummeting rush to the storm-haunted garret, swift and soundless, shuttling the webs, repairing the threads and strands. How many rooms, cubicles, closets, and bins in all? No one knew. To say 1,000 would exaggerate, but 100 was nowhere near truth. 159 seems an agreeable amount, and each was empty for a long while, summoning occupants across the world, yearning to pull lodgers from the clouds. The house was a ghost arena, yearning to be haunted. And as the weathers circled Earth for 100 years, the house became known, and across the world the dead who had laid down for long naps sat up in cold surprise and wished for stranger occupations than being dead, sold off their ghastly trades and prepared for flight. All of the autumn leaves of the world were shucked, and rustling migrations hovered mid-America and sifted down to clothe the tree, which one moment stood bare and the next was ornamented with autumn falls from the Himalayas, Iceland, and the Capes, in blushed colors, in funeral somber array, until the tree shook itself to full October flowering and burst forth with fruit not unlike the cut gourds of All Hallows. I hope that you enjoyed today's video and this soap based on haunted houses and my favorite book about haunted houses, From the Dust Returned by Ray Bradbury. I hope that you enjoyed all of the videos this month from my October collection, and my big holiday shop update and holiday soaps are coming real soon. I hope you have a wonderful fall, autumn time, and a happy Halloween if you celebrate. And if you're interested in any of these soaps, my shop links are listed down below. Thank you so much.